Welcome back to Dubbzi Bricks for another episode of Building the Tantive in Lego, the build series where we're attempting to make a minifig scale Tantive 4 out of Lego. Now, in the last update, we worked on this part of the structure just here, made quite a few amendments to it, strengthened it up, and fingers crossed it's got all the strength that it's going to need. In this update, I'm going to be working on this side. This is the side which is going to have all of the panels on it. The other side is the removable panel side or cutaway section. I haven't decided which way I'm going to go with that just yet. But what I want to do is get some more Technic work put on here. So it's at the angle that it needs to be, so I can plate this all off and get all of those details on there. Now, I am going to have to work on the bottom as well, obviously, which is going to be quite tricky. So I'm just wondering whether it would pay me to start on that part of it. The other thing I want to work out is the turret that goes up here, or the circular part, the cylinder part that goes up here. You've got a gun on the top and the bottom. It'd be quite nice to get the size of that and the structure ready, just so I can panel on top of that as well. So plenty of things to work on in this update. But the first thing we need to do, get those blueprints out. Let's get measuring and see what needs to go where. And there we have one slope all in place, and it's got loads of strength in it. So I've tried to make it as strong as possible. I don't want it to give way when I'm pushing down on the plates and bricks. I put numerous lift arms throughout just to help keep it in place so it's not going anywhere at all. Now I have put some more Technic beams going across in the centre of the vessel here just to help strengthen it all up, as I felt it was a little bit weak in that place. And here is the other one, which will be going on the bottom, and that's what we're going to be attaching next. Now, when it comes to doing the other side of the vessel, this is obviously going to have to be a different design, as I need to have the escape pods in there. The top can be like this, but the bottom obviously need to have the holes in there. So what I'll probably do is make the outline of this and then start trying to work out how I get all of the strength in there that I need, leaving the holes. But what I think I will need to do is order in a whole load of Technic bricks, as I'm getting very low on certain sizes, like the 8x1, the 6x1. I've used so many on these two parts here. Yeah, we're just getting very low on all of that sort of thing. So anyway, let's start attaching this to the bottom, and then once we've done that, I can then start thinking about plating it off. And there we have the bottom part all in place, and it's so nice seeing the actual shape of this come together here. Now, I was going to start work on covering this over with white plates. However, when I was just filming this, I'd realised this Technic lift arm here was in the wrong hole. I've got two here, and it was in the third hole up, and then it was connected down below. This was in the correct place at the top, but it was one pin further over, so it was actually twisting this section. So it just showed how easy it was to make the simplest of mistake, and then things wouldn't line up. So what I've decided I'm going to do is, rather than plate this off now, I'm going to make an attempt at starting the other side. Now, as I mentioned, I'm very low on Technic bricks. However, these 1x6 Technic bricks I've got here all the way across the centre, they're not actually being attached to anything. So I could replace these by 2x6 bricks. That way it's going to free up all those Technic pieces, and the same on a few of the ones at the top. They don't need to be Technic bricks, they can just be basic bricks. So I'm going to just strip those all off. We're then going to attempt to make the panels for the other side, or the structure parts here for the other side. Now, obviously, they are going to be different because we're going to have the escape pods in, and we are going to still be doing the cutaway or the removable panels on there. However, as long as I've got the basics over there, so I know where it's all connected, at least then when it comes to doing it further down the line, I can just tweak it around there. So let's see what Technic bricks we can free up from this side here, go for our collection, and let's make a start on the other side. And here we have the two panels to go on the other side where the escape pods will be. And these squares here at the bottom, that's where the escape pods will be. So you've got 3 studs between each one. Now, this is the Lego set that came out a few years back, and it's 8 studs in width, and these squares are 8x8. So this, in theory, would fit in each one. The only problem is you have this hinge piece just here where my thumb is, and that would stop the escape pod from actually being able to go in and out of the vessel. So I will need to find my own design of this. The previous escape pod that I've got here, which has had a few bits taken off of it, is too big for the build. So I am going to be looking at ways of modifying this one. Now, it might be a case of I just don't have the escape pod so that it actually opens up. It might just be a solid build. I was always going to do a small seam below the Tantive where it's got C-3PO and R2-D2 walking as if they're in Tatooine. So that I might do a detailed one on that side of it. but at least we know that we can get this into the build there. So this is the one that goes on the bottom, and this is the one that will go on the top, and it's got larger holes there. Now, the reason for that is I'm not 100% sure where the engines are going to go on the escape pod. So if you imagine it's down like so, it's probably going to sit like that, and the engines are very close to the top. So I just needed to make sure that they didn't interrupt with any beams on the top part. So that's the top one just there. So now we've got these two bits of framework all built up. Let's attach them to the main build. And here we have the view from the head on, just to give you an idea of the angle that we've got on the side panels just here. Now, I did have to do a little bit of taking it apart and putting it back together again, just so I could get the lift arms in to keep everything as firm as possible. There's loads of strength in here, so I'm not worried on that side of things. The whole structure feels so good, feels really sturdy. Now, I have put in the additional beams going across. Again, it's different from the other side, as I needed to make sure that I wasn't interrupting with where the escape pods are going to be going inside the build. Now, hopefully these holes are going to work out perfectly and we're not going to need to do anything with that. But if we do, then we'll just carefully dismantle the inside bit and then go from there. It looks like it's all okay at the moment. Now, with the build, what I want to do now is look at the Technic structure just that goes on the very top, if there is any at all that's required. And then once we've got all that sorted, hopefully we'll be able to get round to doing some paneling on the other side. And we're having issues with the scaling of the build once again. And if you look at the cross section, the meeting room is actually lower into the build, but even so, there's no way you could actually fit the meeting room into the area that's available within the ship. So I'm going to have to get creative with how I go about building this and try and get a meeting room on this very top. The only other way I could get around it is if I had a whole removable section where you lifted the entire floor out of the build, but I don't think that's going to work due to all of the angles we have in the side pods and so forth. So we're just going to have to get creative with that top section and use a little bit of creative license. Now, at the moment, we have got the minifigure sat on the floor here, and as you can see, there's not a great deal of room at all in there. So what I'm going to try and do now is actually lower the floor down, as it's going to make it that little bit wider. Due to the sides of the walls slanting, I think if I can just lower the floor down, even if it's just by a couple of bricks, then it's going to be that little bit better. And there we have the floor all lowered down by a couple of bricks, and this is at the right height. Now, this top section here, I will be putting a proper roof section on there. It will be cut back by a couple of bricks just to help get the light in. But I am going to order in some panels to go across the top, the same as what I'm going to be putting in this section here, so that the lights are above it, helping to light the room up as much as possible. Now, I am wondering whether it would pay to bring this down even further and amend this side here. Now, this is the one which has got all the cut sections in here, so you've got the escape pods, etc. in there. But if I could remove this part here so you can see in that a little bit easier, I might be able to get more detail in there. With the walls at the back, when they come up, they're going to be hitting the slopes. So if I've gone down by, say, another 2-3 bricks, then they're not going to be hitting it at all. And I've got the full width of this section here, which is 14 studs. So it could work out that a little bit better doing it that way. It's a shame there's not more room inside here, but yeah, I'm really struggling to see how they managed to get as much detail into this build as they claim was in there in the cross-section books. But we'll have a good think about that over the next week or two. So what we're going to do now is rotate this round and start covering the top of one of these sections just here, just so I can work out what plates and wedge pieces I'm actually going to need and make sure I've got the angles as I need them. And here we have the start of the plating off of the side panel here, and I'm going to need to get a load of pieces in. I'm really low on white plate at the moment. The 6x8 are very often on the pick-a-brick wall, so fingers crossed next time I go up there they will be up there. But the angles on here are the same as what's on the microscale version, and I believe the playset version as well. Now I want this to be as smooth as possible, so on this part here, for example, I'll be using a load of the 2x2 wedge plates, so the ones that look like that, or there's the 3x2 which looks like that, just the right of my finger, and then that way I can tile the rest of it. So I'll keep these ones on the base and then tile over the top, and then just put the smaller wedges there. That'll minimalise the number of studs exposed. These bits here, you can tile over those because they do the tiles in that angle, so that's what we'll be working at. And the same on here, we'll be using a load of the 3x2 wedges on this part as well, just to get that as smooth as possible. Now I've got as far as I can with the build for this update with the pieces I have available to me. Now over the next week or two, I am going to do as much sorting as I can through my loose Lego collection. I know I've got so many more white parts lying around somewhere. I just need to find them out, get them sorted so we can get a lot more work done on the Tantive. Now, speaking of the word Tantive, it was brought up in the comments last week that I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. Now, I grew up calling it the Tantive. I recently started calling it the Tantive. Somebody did put in the comments exactly how you're supposed to pronounce it, but unfortunately I've forgotten already, so apologies if I am getting it wrong, but I'll get there one day. Now, next weekend, I am in Manchester at Bricktastic. I'll be displaying my IG88 build there. And I'm also hoping to bring an IG11 and speeder bike as well. I'm probably about halfway through the build, so if I can get that finished this week, that'd be fantastic. So if you are in Manchester next week at Bricktastic, please pop along and say hello. It'd be nice to meet you. The following day, as soon as I get back from Manchester, I have family visiting, and they're going to be with me for just over a week. So I won't be in the Lego room that much at all whilst they're over. So the next Tantive video will probably be about 2 weeks' time. There will be a couple of videos that I will be uploading whilst my family's here, so there will still be something on the channel. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody else you think would be interested in building the Tantive in Lego, if you could share the channel with them, it'd be much appreciated. Anyway, thanks for popping on by, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.